with some of my personal leaders, yeah, I was saying about the one at the university ward. You know, he convinced my ex-wife that I was a dangerous person, that she should leave me, and the church will pay for you getting the kids. And it's like, he didn't even bother talking to me. I mean, yes, I had an alcohol problem too, which he had no fucking understanding of. Which I developed an alcohol problem because I felt inadequate, because I felt like I was garbage, because the church taught me I was garbage. And so, yeah, I'd get stressed out because of school, because my ex-wife wouldn't touch me. But I wasn't allowed to. But yeah, I was the bad person, even though she was the abuser. But whenever I stood up for myself, because she would yell and keep fights going on for hours, if not days, just nonstop. Nothing, just like with the church, nothing was ever good enough for her. And whenever she'd have a problem with me, it's like, you know, the archaic understanding of pornography use. Yeah, because my ex-wife would hardly let me touch her. She would get upset if I would, you know, attempt to seduce her, or, you know, try to get her in the mood. You know, she's my wife. She has a right to say no, but at the same time, she needs to say yes every once in a while. Just give me, you know. But she, like, oh, why the fuck not? Yeah. Like, just asking for a hand job because I couldn't jack off myself. He felt horrible. She made me feel like garbage just for asking for. So, yeah, I dove pretty hard. And that was my rabbit getting scared of itself. Or something, I don't know. There's an owl that lives around here. I think it scares my rabbit sometimes. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, about the repressive sexual history. Yeah. So, yeah, I dove pretty hard into pornography. I mean, I started looking at pornography at 12. You know, those of us who grew up in the 90s, you know, scrambled porn on the cable box. Or the Nitro Girls. Britney Spears videos. Yeah, got whatever you could. Yeah, and so I tried to be done with it, you know, because I was led to believe it was an addiction. And so I had to come clean to my wife about it, which was one of the things that ended the marriage. It's the fact that I was trying to strengthen our marriage by letting her know I have been using pornography. And then, you know, trying to go through the whole process of that, which just got her all up, hot and bothered, and, you know, then the next thing I know, yeah, we had some legal issues, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact that the bishop, every bishop we had would always take her side. And sometimes, I mean, the last interaction I had with the bishop that's assigned to my ward, the geographical ward, you know, I haven't been there in over a year, almost a year and a half. After my wife left, you know, I stopped going because he, without talking to me, without trying to understand the other side, because, you know, as a couple on the outs, get in arguments, and they say nasty things to each other sometimes. But because she has never really had any conflict in her life before me, because she lived such a sheltered and repressed existence in small town Iowa, that anytime I would stand up for myself, because she would start, you know, like I said, nothing was ever good enough, nothing was clean enough, nothing was done fast enough. None of that shit was ever, so it's like I had to suffer through all that. And then when I started standing up for myself, you know, and yeah, I got kind of a filthy mouth. I can be nasty. But I never instigated it. I reacted. She's the one that instigated it. She's the one that kept it going. And no, what I did was wrong, but what she did was wrong too. And the bishop, without even talking to me, said, "No, leave your husband. He's a piece of shit. He's the abuser. He's the abuser." It's like, no, we wouldn't have any of these arguments if you could just be pleased. I mean, she used to wander around the house looking for something I forgot to do, or I missed, or I didn't do well enough. Which I think she learned that from the church, as well as her mother could never be pleased either. So I think, which she was in the church, convert to the church too. So it's probably a combination of the two, as well as, you know, the whole concept of co-equal. But yeah, so I had 3 bishops for different reasons, all without talking to me, without trying to understand the situation, tell me I was the abuser when I was the abused. But because I was a veteran, because I look different, you know, just the simple fact that I grow fucking facial hair, and I work blue-collar jobs, you know, I'm not a good person. I'm not a good Mormon. I haven't been blessed enough. Fucking hate that whole Utah bubble bullshit about people. You're a good member of the church if you have been financially rewarded. It's like, that's a load of bullshit. And I would call it out in church. I was the one who, which that didn't help either. But one good thing, you know, the last talk I ever gave was about prayer. And so, because of the arrogance of all the Utah Mormons that come into town, you know, I opened it up saying, you know, the universe is, was it 96 trillion light years in circumference? And if there's billions upon billions of planets out there, all crying out to their own God, what makes your prayer special? At least the bishop laughed at that. He thought it was funny. So that shows he's not all bad. Even though he did end up getting he had some brain disease. Unfortunate. He wasn't the same. But he was a good guy. He was the one that actually listened to me. The other 3 all thought I was garbage. I was worthless. Yeah, so, I mean, there's some personal betrayal there. Which, you know, because, you know, I studied psychology at the university. So it's like I had a little bit more empathy and understanding on, you know, people are different, but we're still supposed to, they say, sustain your leaders, which I always understood to be support your leaders. You can respect someone. You don't have to fucking like them. You can wish death upon them, but still listen to their rules. I mean, ex-military, we've had some shitty leaders. Not really in my officers. None of the officers I worked with were shit. They're all good people. What was I saying? Yeah, but not all the bishops. And so, as well as our bishop gave away one of my rabbits when my wife left. Instead of leaving, you know, I was under such stress that, you know, I relapsed into alcoholism, and I checked myself into the hospital because I always was treated like a monster because, you know, I drank. And so that just made the problem so much worse. So I checked myself in the hospital. My lying bitch of a wife, ex-wife, you know, the night before I'm supposed to get out, you know, I thought we were trying to work things out. And then the next morning I get slapped with a civil no contact order, all because I say mean words to her, and she feels intimidated because she has no backbone, and she's never had a hard thing in her life to deal with outside of me. And so the kids are gone, she's gone, and they gave my rabbit away, or my daughter's rabbit. My in-laws, ex-in-laws, gave it to the bishop. The bishop gave it away. It's like, you could have just left it here. So that pissed off my daughter. This is the first time my daughter has been betrayed by the church. And hopefully the last, because I'm trying to get her the fuck out. Thankfully, I've told my wife I refuse to allow her to be baptized. But, as well as, there was a period where I was unemployed. And we were struggling. My wife went from working part-time to working full-time. I couldn't find work. We asked the bishop for help. We don't have much. To this day, we still don't have much. We had the house, we had the car. I had a 3-year-old computer. That was the most valuable things we had. But we needed help paying the mortgage. And so we asked them, and they tell us, no, you need to try and sell stuff before we will help you. It's like, I've been paying thousands of dollars of tithing, hundreds of dollars of fast offerings. And yet you're going to be this difficult for us to pay a mortgage for a little bit while my wife picks up more hours and I'm still looking for work. And then it turns out, that pissed me off. Well, that pissed her off too. That got us both upset. Which as well as she had questions. Actually, I think she's a closet lesbian. But I won't get into that. But then, I've not really been following the church very much. But somehow I got into watching a bunch of multi-level marketing videos on YouTube, and one of them, LuLaRoe, whatever, is owned by a Mormon company. And then she brought up the fact that I didn't even realize that the church had an investment arm. And then come to find out, back in December of 2019, they had $100 billion that they've been hiding from the IRS for at least 22 years. So much for obeying the law of the land. Isn't that right, cocksuckers? Pieces of shit. So that's when I knew for certain the church was just bullshit. And started watching some ex-Mormons, some Telltale Atheist, like I was saying, Mr. Atheist, Zelf on a Shelf, Brother Jake, what's her name? Oh, Chrissy's Corner. She was in a fucked up ward. I was kind of ostracized, but it was small. And, I've never lived in a completely... Sioux City had a lot of Mexicans and other immigrants. That's the ward I grew up in. And in Iowa City, we have a lot of immigrants, as well as just other races. So it's not that big a deal to have. Even though they did have a separate Spanish-speaking ward, but that was just more for convenience of the Spanish-speaking families. Because I never experienced anything like that. So, and I've never seen it. But both me, my sister, my little brother, we've all experienced the discrimination and destructive nature of the cliques that exist within the church. But I also can understand now why so many ex-Mormons become atheists. It's like, I went from, yes, Christ still lives. There still is a God, last week. Even though realizing, the Mormon church is a cult. That it's all nonsense, but yet my faith in Christ was still strong then because I needed to cling to it. But now it's like, I don't know if I want Christ to exist. I want there to be eternal salvation. I want there to be a loving Heavenly Father. But all of those teachings were predicated on nonsense, on stories. Like I said, my focus was not so much on the Book of Mormon, even though I was planning on naming my first son Nephi, how ingrained I was into it. But no, since we were the Church of Jesus Christ, my focus was on Christ's teachings in the New Testament. So now it's like I got a 2,000-year-old text that just boils down to two things: be humble, be kind. And so I guess that's my spirituality now. I want Christ to exist. I want God to exist. I don't know if he does. And ultimately, it will only matter when I die. Because the important teachings are with me now. Be humble, be kind. Be done with this bullshit. Because the relief I have felt, so amazing. But the programming's still here. I've been getting praise to the man in my head. Like my brain saying, no, you need to believe this still. And so I've had to say, fuck you, Joseph Smith. Fuck you. To try and fight the programming. As well as, like I said, I'm working on trying to keep my daughters from signing an eternal contract at the age of 8 and fucking up their mindset. She's getting the lessons from the missionaries. So she's getting high pressure sales tactics shoved on her. Fuck you! Fuck that church! Fuck it!